To Nigeria next, where a Christian group says around 50 of the more than 300 children kidnapped from a Catholic school this past week have escaped. They say the children have been reunited with their families. Nigeria has seen a spate of recent attacks by armed gangs, with 2 schools and a church the latest targets. Security fears have sparked a wave of school closures across the country.
At least these children are leaving by choice. Parents across Nigeria have rushed to primary and secondary schools in the wake of a series of armed abductions.
We are sort of informed by the school yesterday that we should go and pick the children this morning for security reasons, which I understand actually, because as a parent you can imagine our distress.
The schools have been ordered to close because many lack sufficient security and are seen as soft targets for gangs of men who storm the premises and kidnap those inside. On Monday, 25 students were taken from this predominantly Muslim girls' school in the northwestern Kebbi state, in the first mass school kidnapping in more than 18 months. But just 4 days later, one of the worst mass abductions the country has ever seen. 315 students and teachers disappeared from a Catholic boarding school in Niger State when armed men stormed the campus in the early hours of the morning. For parents, it evokes memories of the nearly 300 girls who were taken by Boko Haram jihadists from a school in Chibok in 2014. To this day, dozens of the girls are still missing.
When we heard about this kidnapping of over 300 children that were kidnapped from their school, so I was scared. So when I heard about it, and this issue that happened in Chibok, those Chibok girls, the thing just played back to me like, you know, I was so afraid. The government is not doing anything, not even enough, not doing anything to me. Because I don't know why a government, with all the manpower that we have, we are lacking securities for our children.
For years, heavily armed criminal gangs have been carrying out kidnappings for ransom. The bandits, who aren't necessarily religiously motivated, have camps in vast forests that span several states. Nigerian newspaper Vanguard estimates more than 2,500 students and teachers have been abducted since the Chibok girls were taken almost 12 years ago.
And let's bring in DW's Amaka Okoye, who's following this story. Amaka, what's the latest you can tell us about the fate of the abducted?
Yeah, Viresh, yesterday we would say there was a bit of relief, or good news, but not complete relief for Niger State government, for the students at the school, the St. Mary's private school, and of course relatives whose family members were reunited, about 50 of them. It's important to also note that these 50 people who kind of escaped, at least that's what the school says, they escaped between Saturday and Sunday, from the bush back to their parents. Of course, the federal government is saying about 51, but the release that we have directly from the school is that 50 of them have escaped. That's what we know, particularly for the primary school section, where most of them were taken from. These attacks, as you do remember, started from the primary school and then to the secondary section. So it makes sense that over 200 of the primary school children are still with their abductors, and of course some secondary school students and teachers who were taken. We're talking about children from the ages of, say, 6 to 11 who are still in custody. And that's for this one school. You did mention in our reports there that there is also the Kebbi State one, where 25 girls were taken. No word yet. The government did say they know the location where these students are, but exactly they have not been, of course, they have not been rescued, or they are not yet back. But also, just still talking about abductions, we also got the news yesterday that all 38 who were abducted from the church in Kwara State, they have been released. So it's bits of good news, but it's not total relief, because of course what everyone is expecting is that all of these people in the schools, Kebbi State, and of course St. Mary's primary secondary school, the private Catholic school, would be released in due time.
Which groups are usually behind such kinds of crimes?
I think that this is a very important question because over the years there's now a bit of interchanging of names and people. What we do know so far in all of this attack, no group have taken responsibility. But in the past, we knew of Boko Haram, the terrorists. That's the group that is known as terrorists. But now these days we hear the names are now interchanged, bandits or terrorists. Even this particular attack, we hear some people say bandits, we hear some people say terrorists. No group particularly claimed responsibility rather. And are there known motives? In the times where it used to be Boko Haram, we knew that the motive is they're against education. But for bandits, largely it's usually looking for ransom. They abduct these people and ask for ransom. And that's what we are saying. So for these particular cases that we've mentioned, no group has taken responsibility, but the suspicion is that they're a terrorist group, and the government says terrorist group, the state says terrorist at some point, and sometimes it says bandits. So it's just interchanged now these days. But what we do know are these are armed men who have gone into schools when people are most vulnerable and taking them hostage, Viresh.
President Bola Tinubu has vowed to improve the security of Nigerians. How is he going to do this?
You're very right. Yesterday, he had this meeting with the security chiefs, and one of the things he said is that he's going to withdraw 100,000 policemen who usually in Nigeria, guide the very important personalities, as they call them, VIP. Let's put it in context. Nigeria has just a little over 200,000 policemen, and we're talking of 100 or more of these policemen are guarding special people. So he says one of the things he's going to do is to withdraw all VIPs that have a personal police, that those policemen will be withdrawn, and then, of course, a recruitment of 30,000 more. But that's not enough. I mean, that's the police, but the level of attacks that we are seeing is not just the one that policemen can handle, because the people we're dealing with, these bandits, these terrorists, always come with very, very sophisticated weapons. So you would need more than policemen, more than just 30,000 policemen, but more security indeed in the country.
We'll leave it there for the moment. Amaka Okoye in Lagos, thank you so much.